I sat in the car for exactly 21 minutes after the auditorium doors closed behind the last guests. My white uniform was sticking to my back, and the candle in my palm had gone out long ago, but I held on to it anyway, as if it could still offer some warmth. My phone kept flashing with notifications. 38. Not a single one from my parents. There was, however, a text from the one person who never owed me a thing. I didn't open it right away. At first, I just sat there, looking at my reflection in the dark window, tired, with smudged makeup and eyes that had seen far too much over the last 3 years. Finally, I turned the phone over. I'm here. In the lobby. And I'm not leaving until you kick me out. I am so proud of you. I closed my eyes and rested my forehead against the steering wheel. The tears didn't burst out. They came slowly, as if they, too, lacked the strength. Before you understand what happened next, you need to know one thing about me. I grew up in a family where I didn't exist. Not literally, of course. Place at the table was always set, my things were in my room, my name was spoken in the house, but all of it was background noise. The main storyline always belonged to my brother. He was that child, the one around whom the universe revolved. Loud, charismatic, talented. He played basketball, and every single game was treated as an event. My parents followed him across states, booked hotels, recorded videos, and analyzed his stats. My mother had a binder. Not just an album, an actual binder filled with sheet protectors, spreadsheets, and newspaper clippings. His achievements, his records, his photos. She updated it every season. I, on the other hand, was quiet. I studied. I got straight A's. I made the dean's lists semester after semester. And every time I heard the exact same thing. Good job, my mother would say. It's the tone people use to comment on nice weather. Polite, devoid of emotion. When I told my father I got into nursing school, he just nodded and said, that's a useful profession. That was it. I didn't get mad, I simply drew a conclusion. I was on my own. For 3 years, I lived on the edge. Side hustles, night shifts, studying to the point of total exhaustion. I counted every single penny. Sometimes I had to choose between shampoo and food. Meanwhile, my brother got a new car for his birthday, wrapped with a big bow, just like in a commercial. I found out by accident over the phone, sandwiched between questions about how many vacation days nurses get. I never asked for anything. That was my rule. If I made it to the finish line, it would be mine and mine alone. And I made it. But let's step back for a moment, because it didn't all start on that day. It started several months earlier. Back in February, my mother called me one evening. I was standing by the sink eating cold pasta and trying not to fall asleep after a double shift. We wanted to let you know in advance, she said. I actually felt a flicker of gratitude, until the next sentence. We won't be able to make it to your ceremony. I froze. Your brother has an important game, a showcase. Scouts will be there. We've already bought the tickets. I remained silent. You understand, don't you? I took a breath. It's not just a ceremony, I said. It's the pinning ceremony. It's important. Of course it's important, she replied in that tone people use when they think you're being overly sensitive. We'll celebrate later. We'll do a dinner. I asked her when they had bought the tickets. She said a long time ago. I asked when the game had been scheduled. She didn't know. I understood everything. And I didn't say another word, because arguing was useless. The next day, I got another call. Not from them. From her. When is the ceremony? She asked right away. I told her. I'll be there, she said. It's far. I know where you live, she interrupted. I'm coming. I pressed my palm over my mouth so she wouldn't hear me choking back tears. Okay, I whispered. Tell me where to park. The following months passed in a blur. Studying, working, sleepless nights, and one more thing. Something I hadn't told anyone. In March, I was offered a job, a real one, in another city, far away. Very far away. I thought about it for 4 days, and I accepted. But I kept it to myself, like a secret, like something that was purely mine. The day of the ceremony arrived all too fast. I woke up without an alarm at 5:30, got dressed, drank coffee, avoided looking at my phone until the last minute. There were messages from Mom, thinking of you, love you. From my brother, good luck today. And from her, I'm already on my way. Bought you a pastry. Don't argue. I laughed. For the first time in a long while, I laughed for real. The hall was loud, packed with people. I looked for her in the crowd, and I found her. 3rd row, on the left, in a blue blazer. She was crying, openly, loudly, unashamed. When my name was called, I walked onto the stage, I received my pin, and I heard her shout, "That's my girl." I looked at the empty seats beside her, then back at her, and I thought, this is enough. Afterward, we went out to dinner. She ordered food for both of us. We laughed, and then out of nowhere, she said, "You're hiding something." I lowered my eyes. "I got a job offer." She nodded. "Where?" "Far from here." "When are you leaving?" "In August." She smiled. "You've already decided." "My parents will be against it." "Of course they will," she said calmly. "So what?" I stayed quiet. "Do you want this job?" I nodded. "Then that's all that matters." In that moment, something inside me clicked into place. It was like a puzzle piece I had been trying to force for years, finally slotted in effortlessly. A week later, I told my parents. They didn't understand. They said there were options closer to home, that it was too far, that it was strange. I listened, and then I said, "My mind is made up." For the first time in my life, I felt zero guilt. My brother called a couple of days later. "I blew it," he said. "I should have been there." I said nothing. "You deserve better." That took me by surprise. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. A week before leaving, I drove to her house, unannounced. She opened the door, looked at me, and simply said, "Come on in." We spent the day in the garden, talking, sitting in silence, just existing. Before I left, she handed me a small ceramic token with a painted compass on it. "So you don't lose your way," she said. I held it in my hands like it was sacred, because it was. In August, I left. I packed up the car, looked at the empty apartment, received my texts, "Safe travels. Proud of you. Don't die on the road." I smiled. She called early in the morning. "Are you ready?" "Yes." "Then go." I got into the car, placed the ceramic disc in the cup holder, and drove. Through cities I had never seen, along roads I didn't know. I stopped at a gas station once, sat on the hood of my car, looked at the horizon, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt myself. Not someone's daughter. Not someone's sister. Not an afterthought. Just me. My phone lit up. A message, "I'm thinking of you. Keep going." I replied, "I'm keeping going." And I drove on. I drove until I stopped recognizing the city names on the highway signs. Somewhere past the third gas station, the coffee started tasting identical, and the radio turned into background noise. The road stretched into one long line, and I moved along it almost automatically. But inside, it was the exact opposite. As if, for the first time in years, something was finally moving for real. I kept the music off. I needed to hear my own thoughts. They were unexpectedly calm, stripped of that constant background noise of you must, you should, and what will they think? Just mine. By evening, I pulled into a roadside motel. Nothing special, just a faded sign and an ice machine hummed like it had been surviving there for decades. I grabbed the key, went up to the second floor, and stood at the door for a long moment before opening it. It was the very first time a space belonged entirely to me. No expectations, no comparisons, no feeling like a shadow in someone else's life. I stepped inside, tossed my bag onto the bed, and sat down beside it. Silence. I didn't even turn on the light at first. I just sat in the dim room, listening to someone laughing through the wall, the hum of passing cars, and the low buzz of the air conditioner. And suddenly, I realized something strange. I wasn't lonely. In the past, silence felt heavy. It amplified the feeling that I was invisible, drifting on the outer edges of someone else's life. But now the silence was mine. I laid back on the bed in my clothes and stared at the ceiling. For the first time, I allowed myself to think, not about what I had to do next, but about what I wanted. It turned out to be harder than I thought. Because my whole life, my desires had either been put on hold or bent to fit everyone else's. I closed my eyes and asked myself a simple question. If no one were judging me, comparing me, or expecting anything from me, how would I live? The answer didn't come instantly, but it began to take shape. Slowly, honestly, unhurried. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. Light was filtering through the curtains, and for a second, I forgot where I was. Then I remembered, and I smiled. It was a brand new feeling. Waking up without a weight on my chest, without the thought of, here we go again. I got dressed, grabbed a coffee from the machine, and got into the car. Before turning the key in the ignition, I pulled out the ceramic token. I ran my finger over the painted compass. "All right," I whispered softly. "Let's do this." The drive felt lighter. Or maybe I had become lighter. I stopped counting the miles, stopped thinking about how much further I had to go. I just drove. Sometimes I pulled over, not because I needed to, but because I wanted to. Once, just to look at a field drenched in sunlight. Another time, to buy a ridiculously sweet lemonade and drink it right there in the parking lot. Small things. But they were the small things I had never allowed myself to have. Living not for a destination, but in the moment. I rolled into my new city closer to evening on the third day. It welcomed me with noise, bright lights, and the overwhelming feeling that nobody here knew a single thing about me. And it was beautiful. I parked outside the building that was now supposed to be my home, small, unfamiliar. I turned off the engine, but didn't get out right away. I sat there, looking up at the entrance. My heart was beating fast. Not from fear, from the sheer scale of it all. This wasn't just a move. This was a choice to live my own life. I picked up my phone. A message was already waiting for me. "Did you make it?" I smiled. "Yes." The reply came back almost instantly. "I knew you would." I took a deep breath, got out of the car, walked up the steps, unlocked the door. The empty apartment greeted me with an echo. I stepped inside, set my bag down, looked around, and suddenly I said out loud, "This is mine." My voice sounded strange, like I was testing reality to see if it was real. I walked into the middle of the room, sat down on the floor, pulled out the ceramic compass and placed it in front of me. "Thank you," I said quietly, not just to her, to myself too, for not stopping. That evening I unpacked just one box, only one. I didn't rush. I wasn't running a race anymore. I opened the window. There was something crisp and fresh in the city air, something alive. I sat on the windowsill, pulled my knees to my chest, and watched the street below. People were walking by, busy with their lives. Cars passed. Life was happening. And this time, I didn't feel like a bystander. I was part of it. My phone lit up again, not from her, from Mom. "Did you get there okay?" I stared at the screen for a long time. In the past, I would have replied instantly, briefly, politely. This time, I stopped to think and typed, "Yes, I'm good. I'm home." A few seconds later, a reply came back, "We're proud of you." I stared at those words. They felt different, or maybe I was different. Once, those words would have meant everything to me. Now, they were just a nice thought. Nothing more. They didn't define me anymore. I laid the phone down beside me, looked out over the city, and for the first time I understood. I didn't need their approval anymore to know I had done the right thing. I already knew. And that was more than enough. Before going to bed, I laid down on the floor. I hadn't put my bed together yet. I stared at the ceiling and thought about how tomorrow would be my first day at the new job. New faces, a new role, a new version of me. And for the very first time, it didn't terrify me, because now I knew. I can handle this, not because I have to, but because I can. I closed my eyes, and my very last thought before falling asleep was, "This is only the beginning." And it truly was.